pundit and former professional footballer John Wilkinson's taking time out from Christmas shopping, maybe, to join me here. Michelle Holland's at a trusty touchscreen, and as ever, here's what we're gifting you tonight. So it's a Carabao Cup quarter-final week, and we'll be discussing the winners, but we'll also be trying to work out exactly who really wants or needs to win what this season. Plus, Michelle will get her funny on as she serves up another fan forum. Well, to be honest, her funny is rarely off, is it? And talking of Christmas, Michelle, should we give the viewers a bit of a heads up?
Go on then, we love a plug on this show. It is 5 days until Christmas, folks, and on the big day itself, we thought we'd do something different with a Christmas special on the cards. That said, we need your help for our giving section. So, if you could gift one thing to a Premier League player or club, what would it be? Get in touch with your hopefully humorous suggestions via the usual channels, Twitter, Facebook, or email us at jds@fox.com. So save all the funnies for that. More pressing, though, is our Who Needs What chat coming up in just a mo as we work our way through the Big Six club's priorities. Now, have a listen to the two Johnnies here, and as always, let us know your thoughts on Facebook Live.
The two Johnnies. Right, John is with me, and we'll get on to him in just a moment. What we're doing is we're talking priorities, as Michelle said. Christmas and New Year are going to fly by, and suddenly we'll be right in the thick of things, with England's big clubs 2/3 of the way through the Premier League season, and in some cases involved in 3 cup competitions. So about now, I say, they need to start getting their priorities absolutely sorted out. Adding to the urgency, the fact we're not even halfway through the season, and thanks to Man City's dominance of the league, the rest of the so-called Big Six need to focus on what they want to achieve and how best to do it. In case you don't buy into that and you think they'll all just compete on all fronts and just see what happens, well, consider this. Manchester United, what they did last season was effectively, I think, turning a potential problem into a positive because Jose Mourinho strategized brilliantly, and they ended up with 2 trophies, including that all-important Europa League pathway into the Champions League. Plus, they effectively distracted attention from a really poor league campaign. Anyway, John, that's what I think. At what point do you think last season Jose Mourinho said, right, I need to plot a path somewhere that's going to work for us?
This time last season. I think just after the festive period, he realised that they weren't going to win the league. It's gone. But that was easier to stomach last season because it was Chelsea sitting pretty on top of the league. It wasn't their noisy neighbours, wasn't it? So this time last season, John, he started plotting quite carefully.
And it was a clever plan, that, because to target the Europa League, that's quite something. Let's look at this season. And let's start, John, by breaking it down with the team that's changing absolutely everything. The way we see everything has changed because of runaway Premier League leaders and now Champions League favourites, Manchester City. What I've done today is I've tried to very unscientifically come up with a sort of number out of 10 likelihood of any of these clubs winning anything they're involved in. Let's show you this one to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So the job, much more than half done in the league, I reckon. Now, thanks to their draw, they're playing Basel. They've overtaken PSG as favourites to win the Champions League. They've also edged into the League Cup's last 4. They did that last night. They'll be taking on Burnley as well in the FA Cup. So, as I see it, we saw evidence of rotation, massive rotation in the League Cup last night. Is that the way ahead on all fronts for Pep?
Has to be the way ahead. Has to be the way ahead. I still think he harbours hopes of a quadruple, and I think there's a little voice inside his head that says it's still possible, but the only way that's going to be possible, the only way for him to win the Premier League and the Champions League, let alone the FA Cup and the League Cup, is for that rotation. Got enough strength and depth, though, John.
Well, that little voice in his head might be saying one thing, but the voice he uses to speak elsewhere is saying other things. There we are. He says it's out of the reach. You can't talk about quadruples. They don't happen. But then again, this City team seems to be doing things that you wouldn't think possible. Let's consider another possible obstacle. And I've been looking at the fixtures. It's the nightmare timing, really, of the cup competitions during a sort of 6 or 7 week period in January and February. Have a look at what they've got to do. So, John, as I said, FA Cup 3rd round, Burnley, right, OK, that's January 6th or 7th, right? But then you get into the first of the 2 legs of the League Cup semi-final. Then the FA Cup 4th round, if they're in it. Then they know they've got the first leg of that Basel game in the Champions League. Then the FA Cup 5th round, if they're still in it. And all along, they've got Premier League games against Liverpool, Burnley and Arsenal pretty much in that period. It's a crazy period for them.
Yeah.
If they were to prioritise, it looks to me as if the FA Cup is the most obvious one to say, well, let's let that go and buy ourselves a bit of a breather.
This was the FA Cup that became very, very important last season when the 2 main objectives just completely flew out the window. I do believe that he'll let the FA Cup go. Guardiola, unlike any other coach plying their trade at the moment, he's the least present coach. He's always thinking about the future, and that's why he's going to be blooding a lot of youngsters in the cup competitions, looking towards even next season before this one's done.
Priorities then, Michelle. Amoyobi's got something to say about that for City?
Yeah, indeed. He says Manchester City's position and form at the moment means the rest of the 5 teams have to fight for top 4 or any other trophy available to them.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of City's position. Just quickly, John, isn't it? Because they've almost got the job done in one competition, it almost takes the heat off. It does. Scrapping, are they?
No, they're not. And the league will be sewn up by March. I do believe that, and they'll be champions for the first time in 4 years. And that's why I think the Premier League was just so important. Champions League now, all those eggs into that competition.
Right, let's move on to Manchester United right now. We'll do the same thing by looking at where they are, what they can do, what they might do. Mourinho did vow this week to try and win every game between now and the last game of the season against Watford, which is nice. I think the Champions League, though, if you look at that, John, I've actually only given them a 5 out of 10 because it's such a tough competition. I've said they're still in the league because it has been done before, and because it's Mourinho, you're looking at 7 out of 10s for me in the FA Cup and the League Cup. But surely everything is pointing now towards Sevilla and the Champions League.
It is now, of course it is. September, during September you look at the Man United squad and you realised, well, you thought that they were assembled for domestic competition. They were assembled for the Premier League. Lukaku, Matic came in for the Premier League because they're proven in the Premier League. Now, I know Mourinho says he's not giving up on the league. He is. He's only saying that because it's Man City on top of the table. If it was Liverpool or Chelsea, he would have just let it go. He has let it go despite what he's saying, John.
The beauty of Mourinho is that he does not give cups away. It's always likely to win something, and that keeps him going, doesn't it?
I think
he might prioritise yet again.
I think he's going to be looking at the FA Cup for sure. I mean, it's something that he works hard at, and the fact that he's won the League Cup last year means that I think he's going to really go for the FA Cup, of course. And he's a trophy collector. We all know that. The League Cup's going to be thrown away.
Okay. Big shout there. Again, give us your comments before the end of the show. You know, we're going to move on to Chelsea right now, so we'll welcome comments on that. Now, let's not forget, by the way, Chelsea, the champions, a side coached by a man who last failed to win a league title as a club manager in 2010-11. And you must remember that, because this guy wins leagues. It's not going to be very comfortable for Conte. Let's have a look at what they've done and what they could yet do. I've got to give them a slim chance of winning the league, even though the man himself is saying no, just because it could be done. But realistically, that second-place Champions League group finish is their biggest problem. It meant that they landed Barcelona in the knockout round, and suddenly that Bournemouth League Cup quarter-final and the all-important FA Cup, Norwich they play there, suddenly changes things. But it's such a difficult juggling act for Antonio Conte now, John, isn't it?
Well, it was a simple juggling act at the beginning of the season, but because of the way they've performed in recent months, it's all about the Champions League now. And we've got to talk less about Conte. By the way, Conte's won the Champions League for Juventus when he was a player, so I'm sure it's always a priority for him, but it's even more of a priority for this current Blues squad, because that's the one medal that's missing for a lot of these players in a Chelsea shirt.
The last time Chelsea in 2012 went and won that competition, they just did it in the face of absolute adversity. They built this strength, this incredible resilience. But this time, it's a negative. Listen to Conte. Conte's saying, well, we're not going to win the league. I mean, he's publicly gone on the record. He's saying because we were never in the race. We were never even in it. When you make those pronouncements, you're hardly building a siege mentality, are you?
No, you're certainly not. And I think a lot of the players' body language has taken that on board. I mean, some of the players are fits and starts. They're relying on individual performances at the moment, Chelsea, especially Hazard, who I think has been absolutely fantastic, loves being the main man, but he's not getting a lot of help. He's not getting a lot of help. Conte, I think it would have been his biggest achievement to retain the Premier League for the first time since Manchester United did it in 2009, but it's not going to happen now.
Tough to pick. What are the viewers saying about Chelsea, Michelle?
Yep, let's jump on to Christian's comment on Facebook Live. He says Chelsea need to go all out for the Champions League. It's hard, I know, but the fact that they are third in the league and 14 points behind City makes the Premier League no longer a priority. Who knows if they can repeat 2012 also with an Italian coach? Yeah, do what Di Matteo did there. Just quickly on that one, if they do get through that knockout round game, you can't rule them out, can you? You
certainly can't rule them out. Not with the players that they've got. I just worry about them completely as a whole. I just don't think there's a lot of cohesion there at Chelsea. I do believe that there's some cracks opening up at Chelsea. I think there'll be a big overhaul at the end of this season again.
Michelle, I know that we've had some comments on the other clubs as well.
Yeah, let's look at league leaders. Rajan's been on and says City will win the Premier League only. And John Kai follows it up with Man City can win the Premier League, the FA Cup, but not the Champions League because he doesn't have enough players. But the squad is big, but not like PSG and Barca.
Really?
I'm not going along with that. If you look at the League Cup triumph against Leicester, yeah, they scraped through, but they scraped through with a lot of youngsters.
Yeah.
Yaya Toure was in there, Bravo was in there, Bernardo Silva.
Young Player of the Year, Foden.
Oh, Foden was there, Phil Foden was in there. There's some fantastic players in that. That squad is deep, really deep.
That's the beauty of this show, isn't it? So much chat, so much debate, and more to come after this break when we'll focus on Liverpool, Arsenal and Spurs and their priorities.
When we come back, we continue to focus our thoughts on the Big Six with Liverpool, Arsenal and Spurs in the frame. It's all about priorities, yours and theirs, so get your priorities straight and let us know what they need. Your comments are coming up after the break.
Well, look who's here. John Wilkinson's in the house as we're second-guessing the big Premier League clubs and their priorities this season. Up next, the team that he thinks will win the Champions League. Well, let's get to Liverpool then. I think we'll take the Premier League out of the equation straight away, in my opinion, because if it hasn't happened yet, it ain't going to happen this season, in my opinion. Let's have a look at where they are and what they might do. Fourth in the league, 18 off the pace set. No chance there whatsoever. Champions League, I'm going to give them a 6 out of 10. They're not in the League Cup, but they have got the FA Cup to look forward to. I think the Porto draw probably helped them in the Champions League. But, John, what do you reckon? The Merseyside derby, what a draw to get in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
Because suddenly you can't prioritise anything else, can you?
No. Well, look, if you've only won one trophy in the last 11 years, the FA Cup's still got to be a priority. If this is going to be a good chance for Jurgen Klopp to get some red honour, he's got to prioritise it, and I think they'll go on and win it.
Fine. I think they need to win something. I think he, because I'm going to say he, much as I will about Pochettino, needs to win something. But how does he also plot his way to a top 4 finish? That's where he earns his money, is it?
He's got to consolidate that top 4 finish. He truly believed that he could make a challenge for the Premier League this season. No one could envisage that Man City would play the type of football that they've been playing. No one could. And all the other teams have been unfortunate in that regard, because Liverpool haven't played that badly. Defensively, they're looking a little bit better. But also, the Champions League, John, they're looking to cement the fact that they belong in Europe's elite.
It's Europe, it's glory, it's Liverpool.
It's
you're
important.
never going to write them off, are you? Let's move on from 4th to 5th. Now, I'm pretty sure I heard Arsene Wenger say the other day that the Premier League title is not beyond Arsenal's reach. Really? Okay. Well, let's have a little look at this, shall we? I'm giving them a 1 out of 10 in the league. I will also state here and now that if Arsenal win this season's Premier League, I will present the first show of next season speaking entirely in my hilarious Arsene Wenger voice, and I'll end the show by loudly singing the Marseillaise. Anyway, regaining that Champions League place has to be the Gunners' priority, one way or another. Now, as United, as we spoke about earlier on, proved last season, another isn't a bad option for all the romance of Ostersunds and Graham Potter and all that. Europa League's given them a good draw. They're second favourites, but there are some strong teams in that competition if they're going to go that route.
Yeah, I still don't think that the Europa League's a priority for them. We saw that in the opening game against Cologne, the players that Arsene Wenger picked to go out on in that game. FA Cup, also not a priority. It can't be. You've won it 3 times in the last 4 years, 7 times for Wenger. It's not a priority anymore. League Cup, even less so. The Premier League is the priority. It's the only competition that matters for Arsene Wenger, and it'll continue to be until he wins it.
It's an amazing state of affairs, this one. I mean, let's have a look at reaction to Danny Welbeck just bundling them through, as it were, in the League Cup. So what you're saying then is that they have said for so many years now, to their shareholders in particular, top 4 is what it's all about.
Yeah.
Then they've got to walk the talk, haven't they?
They've got to walk the talk, and I think they're enjoying the fact that Spurs are slipping up and got massive problems there, and problems are only going to mount. I look at their starting 11 now, Arsenal. I look at the confidence that's beginning to ease in, and I think they're just about going to get inside the top 4 and stay there.
Oh, it's a tough shout at this time. Tough shout. What are the viewers up to, Michelle?
A couple of comments on the Gunners. Julia Madondo says Arsene should start taking responsibility on the team results and stop blaming injuries and fixture schedule. Can't afford any more setbacks. And Emma Obi says, in terms of priorities, I think Arsenal need to focus on top 4 and Europa League.
That's a tough one, though, because I think, as Jose showed last year, top 4 and Europa League, given the demands, that's going to be tough, isn't it?
I also don't think that Arsene Wenger's got it in him. I just don't think he's got what Jose Mourinho's got, to be getting it into his players' heads, scaring them a little bit into doing the job for him. Mourinho had players that did a job for him in Europa League, and there's a lot of Arsenal players that won't be sticking around next season.
And that's a great point. We're hearing about Sanchez and his attitude a lot right now. Ataba, welcome.
Yeah, let's go to Ataba. He says Europa League was a priority for Arsenal, but now there are big teams like Atletico Madrid and Dortmund, and they'll be tough to beat. Maybe we can witness an Atletico versus Dortmund final.
And that's the whole point. That's the whole point. Good teams, tough competition. It's a tough route. You can't really take that one for granted. Let's get on to Spurs. I'm saying here last and certainly least, because this Big Six club isn't even in the top 6 right now. I'm afraid that's the grim truth right now. The truth is they're 21 points off the pace. It's extraordinary. 7th position. No chance of winning the Premier League. I give them a 4 out of 10 in the Champions League, and I give them a 5 out of 10 in the FA Cup. Things are tough. You know, I did see something earlier on that made me laugh. Actually, Rish Roshan Rai brought it to my attention. So please send your angry comments to him, Spurs fans. On second thoughts, don't send your angry thoughts to him. It was one of those little graphics here, trophy cabinet. But there are a lot of truths in this one, John. Yeah, let's celebrate that we finished up Arsenal. Let's celebrate we put pressure on Chelsea but didn't quite win the league. Let's celebrate attendances, Harry Kane. Now, I'm not having a go at Spurs here, but what I'm pointing out here is that there has been so much goodwill shown to Pochettino, not least by me, that now it's really awkward, this, because the situation is this. This time round, it is a very bad thing if they end up with nothing. There are those who've argued in the past, John, doesn't matter, as long as you do all those things that they put in that trophy cabinet there. Now they've got to finish top 4.
It does matter, and we just got to point out that Rish Roshan Rai is a Liverpool fan, so he's well within his rights to bring our attention to that. He's had enough of it. He's had it in the neck, especially in this studio, for a while. Look, glory's important as a football fan. If you're just concerning yourself with academy players coming up through the rank, what's the point? Harry Kane, one of our own. What's the point unless they actually win something? They have to win something. FA Cup used to be Spurs' trophy.
That's right.
It used to be Spurs' trophy. Even when they're playing in Europe, I don't think Pochettino at the moment gives it everything. It's special for certain players when they're playing against Real Madrid. Can they get up for other teams? Look, Pochettino's all about the league. He's a league coach, and it's just not fallen right for him. Massive pressure, huge pressure for him if they're out of the top 5.
That's right. The consequences unthinkable. It's the glory game at Spurs. They should win things. Michelle?
Talking about that trophy cabinet, John Kai says, I think Tottenham will win the FA Cup and the Champions League. I don't think the Premier League, that they'll win that because their squad is too small. They need to buy players.
Juventus? That's a barrier straight away, isn't it, for them, really?
It's a big barrier. It's a huge barrier, because Juventus, we know how they're going to set up. They'll give you nothing in behind. They'll suffocate you in that central midfield area. And we know something about Spurs. When they don't get their own way, they really struggle.
OK, Michelle, a couple more?
Yeah, a couple more on Spurs. One from Valentino here. I'm not too sure about Spurs, though. They'd probably be sitting top 3 or top 5. Might have missed the chance to earn that trophy.
Yeah.
Icky says Spurs are falling back. No chance in the Champions League. The defence of Spurs, that's what's hurting them.
Yeah, injuries, unavailabilities, one way or another. I mean, City took them apart the other day, didn't they? So it's looking tough for them. Right, OK. Fact of the matter is that we could be proved completely wrong. Yes. But going back to our initial premise, John, this is something they've got to be thinking about right now. Are they thinking about it?
Are Spurs thinking about it? Are they thinking about it? I don't think they dare to. I don't think they dare to think about it right now, John.
Okay.
This is turning out to be a horror season for them, and I mean a horror season. Yeah. Playing good football and getting nowhere near the top.
OK, and that's disturbing, because a lot of us would have suggested that Spurs would be one of the teams that we wouldn't be sitting here saying they might win nothing and they might not be in the top 4. Look, that's early days. Record this, remember this, we've put it on the record, but it's time for those clubs to sort themselves out. Serious stuff, quite in contrast to what we're going to have. A bit of fun and games in our fans forum when we come back.
If you've never seen Roy Hodgson pulling out the stops on his dance moves, stick around, because it's on the way. And if you have, well, I think you'll agree that it is the gift that keeps on giving. See you in a bit.
OK, so John and I have done quite enough talking already. It's time for us to be entertained by Michelle as she brings us her latest Football Fans Say the Craziest Things on Social Media roundup. Yep, it's time now for Fans Forum.
Thank you very much, John. Yep, another fascinating weekend of Premier League football came and went, bringing with it all the narrative, drama and excitement that ensues. It was largely a good weekend on the road for some of the league's lesser lights, and as a result, they were featuring prominently on social media. So, intrepid viewers, strap yourselves in as we journey down today's Fans Forum rabbit hole. On Saturday, Crystal Palace finally got a win on the road, a 3-0 win at that. Naturally, this prompted the kind of calm reaction you'd all expect from Eagles supporters with regards to their away kit choices for the remainder of the season. Leicester fans, on the other hand, were less than impressed by the result. Roy Hodgson is overseeing some revival at Selhurst Park, and it's fair to say that the Palace fans are loving it, even if it is for slightly odd reasons. He's an old man, let him dance like a grandad. Wilfred Ndidi was shown a second yellow for diving on his birthday of all days, and that led to everyone telling the same joke. Yes, Ndidi. The bants. Problems on and off the pitch as Stoke hosted a resurgent West Ham. One travelling Hammers fan waited outside, reckoned that she'd stumbled across the reason for the power outage. 2 wins and a draw in their past 3 matches, all with clean sheets. And suddenly, David Moyes' flavour of the month at the London Stadium. Football fans, fickle. Now I've heard everything. After 2 frustrating home draws, Liverpool travelled to Bournemouth in search of a win. Naturally, Reds fans were unsure which Liverpool team would turn up on the South Coast, while some were still fearful of last season's dramatic defeat. But let's be honest, with Mo Salah in their team, they had little to worry about. So good has the Prince of Egypt season been that some are speculating that he will soon be on par with some of his country's other great treasures. While others are already hailing him as a better player than other footballing greats, Sean Dundee, he's not that good. And finally, Manchester United overcame West Brom 2-1 at the Hawthorns. It was a second straight win for Jose Mourinho's men, but that wasn't enough to stop some sections of the fan base moaning about the style. Trouble brewing in paradise, it seems. Now, that was this week's Fans Forum. If you'd like to contribute, whether it's something you tweeted that went viral or something that amuses you over the weekend, do get in touch at jds@fox.com. JD, anything tickle your fancy amongst that lot?
Well, I don't know if it should really, but John, Roy Hodgson, look, he's an older gentleman. He's not, I mean, he's not going to be cool, is he? He's going to celebrate, and a bit like some of us, when we do things like dancing, it might look embarrassing.